In Russia, the Kremlin says President Putin is considering whether to join the fight against the Islamic State terrorists. Members of Russia's Security Council have discussed cooperation with international partners on combating IS. However, Moscow has not defined which partner. Russia could be directly threatened by IS, as many Muslims from the North Caucasus region are fighting with them. For more on the fight against the Islamic State, Professor Greg Barton joins me from the Global Terrorism Research Centre in Melbourne, Australia. Greg, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't I start there in Australia? Because it seems like the Prime Minister himself speaking directly to anybody who wanted to take part in this sort of thing. Jim, just talking about these raids there in Australia. How much of a threat is this being viewed as there in Australia?
Mike, we've had a real wake-up call ever since the fall of Mosul, and particularly over the last month, recognising there's a link between homegrown extremism, homegrown terrorism, lone wolves, if you like, and foreign fighters. We've got maybe 60, 70 Australians fighting with Islamic State at the moment in Iraq, Syria, supported by perhaps 100 or so individuals back here in Australia. But there's been dozens who have gone and come back from fighting with these groups. We've struggled to prosecute them because our laws, we're just discussing in Parliament this week, ways to change those laws to make it a better fit. And we've been very worried. Our head of ASIO, our domestic intelligence agency, has been worried over the last 3 months. Repeated intercepts of communications between Australians abroad and at home, planning attacks here. And then last week we had this scare with a potential Woolwich-style attack, and that precipitated a rapid conclusion to a police operation that's been going on for months. And then, of course, the message on Sunday from Islamic State confirms a kind of a phase shift, I think, in the way that they're changing operations.
Greg, let's talk about the numbers overall. You've talked about Australia. How many foreign fighters allied to IS in Syria and Iraq are actually over there from these various Western countries, would you say?
Mike, we don't have clear numbers. We thought around June that there were maybe 12,000 foreign fighters in Iraq, Syria. I think the number today is probably 15,000 and rising. Around a quarter of them are from Western democracies, Europe, UK, North America, Australia. The other three quarters from Muslim majority states, mostly in the Middle East region, but also from Chechnya, from Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, across Africa. And this group has drawn in foreign fighters in a way we haven't seen since the 1980s, when foreign fighters went to fight the Soviets with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. But it's happened much faster. It's been much easier to go to Syria and Iraq, frankly, than it was to go to Afghanistan. And we have cheaper travel, we have social media now, internet communications, everything is speeded up. Can you talk to us about the effectiveness of their campaign in terms of propaganda? Well, we can tell that they put a lot of work in. They've got a 9-council sort of government structure. One of the councils is the media council. They put a lot of work into messaging. They do it very well. I was reading through just 12 hours ago the 11-page statement from Dani, and I was struck, I was chilled by just how beautiful and eloquent it was. It was like something from the Old Testament, and that made my blood run cold, because I could see young people in Australia or Europe or America being influenced by this, and if they don't know better, being persuaded by the religious language being used. And it is very powerful propaganda, and of course the military campaign, which I think is necessary, will feed into that propaganda, and it's going to make it easier to keep on radicalizing people, both to go to the region, but also perhaps to take up arms, or even crude implements like Michael Adebolajo used in Woolwich last year, and run somebody over and cut their throat. That's the really scary thing about how their propaganda is reaching out. And is that the key to their recruitment, basically the propaganda, or are there other tentacles out there? Look, the main key with all of this, Mike, is social networks. It's peer relationships. It's getting young people into unhealthy relationships. So the social media is a means to that end. It hooks them up with people who promise to be mentors and inspiring new friends, but end up being, very bad guides. And it reinforces a message as they gather together. They watch the videos, they listen to their messages. It reinforces that. But it's peer pressure. It's young men, basically, teenage years, 20s, going off the rails because of bad company, just as they do with drugs and alcohol and crime and other things, other stupid things that young men do. But we need to be in that social messaging space and put a counter message out, because at this stage they dominate that space. Greg Barton joining us from Melbourne. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.